Welcome to Staying United Methodist, sponsored by Imagine Kentucky Methodism. Imagine Kentucky Methodism is supported by clergy and laity of the Kentucky Conference who envision a form of Kentucky United Methodism that is welcoming to people of all skin colors, ages, genders, sexual orientations, cultures, abilities, and theologies within the United Methodist Church. Hi, I'm your host, Phil Hill. And our guest for this episode of Imagine Kentucky Methodism is Eric Kiser. Eric is an attorney in the Louisville area and has a long history with the United Methodist Church. Eric, we appreciate you taking time to share with us in this episode. And to begin, why don't you start by giving us a quick review of your United Methodist history?
I sure will. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate everything that you and the Imagine Kentucky Methodism team does for the Methodist Church in Kentucky and around the country. I just really appreciate it. As you said, I have a long history in the United Methodist Church. Well, long for me. I have been a member of or continuous attender of about 5 churches for my entire life, and each one of them has been a United Methodist Church. I grew up in a United Methodist Church in Northwest Tennessee, moved to one in Paducah, Kentucky, went to one while I was in law school out of state, and then came back and I'm now a member at Christ Church United Methodist in Louisville. So it's a lifelong Methodist here, and proud of it.
That is great. That is great. Well, as a lifelong Methodist, as you know, the issue that the church is wrestling with began as an LGBTQ plus issue, but interestingly has caused us to review our whole understanding of inclusion of all persons, regardless of their skin color, their age, their gender, their culture, sexual orientation, and a whole lot more. I guess what we want you to hear from you is, as one of the church's young adult members, what would be your interpretation and hope for the church in reference to inclusion and diversity?
Well, I think it's one of the, if not the, most important issue facing the church now, but most importantly for the church's future. My wife and I have an 18-month-old. He just turned 18 months. And, I think about the kind of church that I want him to grow up in. I want him to grow up in the church, and like I did. And I want that church to be a place where everyone is welcome, where everyone, regardless of any of those categories that you set out there, is welcomed and embraced and loved as a full-fledged member, that can do anything and everything that any other member can do. Whether that is receiving communion, giving communion together as a family. We do that at our church. Where families, will volunteer to give communion. I think any family should be able to do that, whether it is regardless of the genders of the people who are married, and I think that should also extend to the church. If the local church wants to embrace them and have a marriage ceremony, the sacrament of marriage in the church there, they should be able to do that. Or if someone who is LGBTQ plus, feels the call to ministry, I think that they should be able to, to act out their faith as they are called to do, no matter what, where they fall in any of those categories you set forth. So, my driving force in why I feel the way that I do is my son. It's what do I want the church to be when he is old enough to understand? And I don't want to have to sit down and say, well, Teddy, this is the reason why, so-and-so can't do X, Y, and Z. It's like that doesn't sit right with me now, and it won't sit right with me then, and I don't think it'll sit right with him. So, that that's why I'm here tonight. It's all for him.
Well, the United Methodist Church has a strong history in a lot of areas of ministry and mission. So I guess I'm wondering, what do you see as, and maybe to expand on your answer a little more, is what do you see as a key component to remaining strong, regardless of our differences? Are there more, I guess I don't mean to lead you here, but are there more things that we can agree upon than disagree upon?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I've had a little bit of a journey on this issue myself, just in the sense that, when it first started, the division really started, deepening. I guess it's always been there, but I was one of these people that was like, I thought, well, why are we looking to split the church over this issue when there's so much more? Like, it's not the bedrock of my thought then was, this is not the bedrock of our mission. But I have come to learn, and as I've talked to people who this impacts directly, this is the bedrock of our mission, the reach out to everyone no matter what. And we can't do that, I don't think, just speaking for myself, I don't think we are as effective reaching out to everyone and spreading our message of love and grace. How can we do that if we are not extending love and extending grace to everyone? If we are not practicing what we're preaching, then we are those hypocrites that Jesus warns about. And I think I mentioned this to you, that one of the things about the United Methodist Church that I have just cherished for as long as I've known that this is different at other places is how we do communion. And, no matter what church I've ever been at, United Methodist Church, no matter what church I've ever been at, the minister gets up in front of the congregation and says, this table is God's table. This does not belong to, I'll just use my current church. This table does not belong to this congregation. It does not belong to Christ Church United Methodist. It does not belong to the Kentucky Conference. This is God's table, and everyone is welcome here, no matter what. And I think that is how the church should be, and I think that is how the church is called to be, no matter what, whether it's communion or anything else. And I think that is the most effective way to go about our mission and to spread love and grace and tell everybody about it. I mean, we got to practice it.
There's such powerful imagery in the communion, in the elements and the sacrament and what it means to us. And yet, you and I both know that, if somebody or there may be a church that's thinking about disassociating with the United Methodist Church, I'm curious, what would you say to them to maybe encourage them to stay and continue to be a strong United Methodist Church?
I would say to any congregation or members of any congregation who are thinking about leaving the church, who maybe, I guess on either side, I would say the United Methodist Church is worth fighting for. It's worth sticking around and making it work. And we need everybody across the ideological and theological spectrum everybody has something to add. Everybody has something of value that will advance the mission, advance the cause. And I think we're all in agreement on what that is. It's when we get into some of the details or some of the the legalese of the Book of Discipline that we get ourselves tied in knots. But I haven't met a person yet on either side of this issue that disagrees on the end mission and message. And I think we have to focus on that. And then I think that there are certain things that are going to come up at the next general conference, different protocols, and it is my understanding that if certain protocols pass, the United Methodist Church will allow for more inclusion. And I would say to a congregation who may not agree with that, who may be thinking about joining a more conservative theological approach to Methodism, I would say, I understand where you're coming from. And, we all love you no matter what, but we need you to stay because you still have a voice. Nobody's going to force you to do anything. We're not here to impose any sort of theological judgment on anyone. And if that were to happen, I would be upset about it too, even if I agree with a certain theological persuasion. I would say that we need you, and the church needs you, and you have something valuable to add, and we'd like you to stay.
Eric, I want to thank you for being a part of Imagine Kentucky Methodism and your service in the United Methodist Church. And we do want to encourage members and churches to remain United Methodist and to work towards some of the important days of kingdom work that we have together. I want to thank our viewers and encourage you to press that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be watching for more videos on this Imagine Kentucky Methodism YouTube channel. May God bless you and the United Methodist Church.